Peruvian authorities reported that the country is facing a multiple crisis, with the collapse of the health system, the loss of more than 3 million jobs, and 3 different presidents in a single week during the pandemic. The political and health crisis intensifies as the country prepares for presidential elections. Our correspondent Veronica Insausti brings us more details in the following report.
Everyone's life has changed. The pandemic emergency that was initially announced for 15 days in March 2020 persists until now, and in a worse context as during this period. 46,000 people have died, 3 million jobs were lost, 500,000 small and medium enterprises went bankrupt, GDP fell by 12 percentage points, and the lockdown increased violence and social conflict.
Oof, terrible. We're out there trying to make a living every day.
The fear for our health. We don't know who is infected and who isn't. How to go out on the street. Our whole life has changed. Nothing will ever be the same.
We are all in this situation. There are no jobs. They have pushed us out of work. We have families to support, children in school.
We are confined, and if we have a sick person, we have to keep them at home, because if we take them to a hospital, it is terrible. There is no way to know whether they are going to take care of you and treat you well, and secondly, the jobs.
The pandemic revealed all the shortcomings of a state that has operated under the neoliberal system for the past 3 decades. The health sector, which was already precarious, collapsed with the arrival of COVID-19, and in 1 year has not been able to overcome the lack of personnel or provide the necessary infrastructure to deal with the emergency.
Absolutely nothing has been done to improve the infrastructure. It's deplorable that today we lack oxygen in 14 regions of the country, including Lima, which is the capital. It is really terrible. There is no way to buy it, probably because they are filling cylinders on the 3rd or 4th day, and sometimes it is no longer useful because the patient has died. We are in the same condition or worse conditions than last year, and they continue to deceive the population.
The credibility of politicians is almost null, due to the corruption scandals that have been dragging on for more than 2 years, the Lava Jato and Lava Juez cases, former governors and state officials in preventing prison, and a total of 3 presidents during the pandemic period. All points to an unprecedented political crisis.
All this has distracted from the pandemic. All this aggravates the conditions in terms of addressing the pandemic. The crisis is not over. It is far from over. In Parliament there are political forces that are pushing to destabilize the parliamentary board, even the President himself, and all this plays against the answers that need to be provided at a time of emergency, at a time when there should be national unity. In Peru, what we have seen is huge fragmentation, and this will also be expressed in the elections.
Citizen rejection of the political class is reflected in the polls, where none of the 17 presidential candidates reaches 11% support, with just 1 month to go before the elections are held. Meanwhile, the number of COVID-19 deaths and cases is increasing by the day, and the majority of Peruvians who have seen the incomes plummet are managing as best they can to survive.
Veronica Insausti, TeleSUR, Perú.